Chapter 19 Moonfleet. This recording is in the public domain. 'Twas with thoughts like this that I was busy while the short afternoon was spent, and the story went up and down the village how that Elzevir Block and John Trenchard, who left so long ago, were come back to Moonfleet, and that the old lander was drowned, saving the young man's life. The dusk was creeping up as I turned back the sail from off his face, and took another look at my lost friend, my only friend, for who was there now to care a jot for me? I might go and drown myself on Moonfleet beach for any one that would grieve over me. What did it profit me to have broken bonds and to be free again? What use was freedom to me now? Where was I to go? What was I to do? My friend was gone. So I went back and sat with my head in my hands, looking into the fire, when I heard someone step into the room, but did not turn, thinking it was Master Ratsey come back and treading lightly so as not to disturb me. Then I felt a light touch on my shoulder, and looking up saw standing by me a tall and stately woman, girl no longer, but woman in the full strength and beauty of youth. I knew her in a moment, for she had altered little, except her oval face had something more of dignity, and the tawny hair that used to fly about her back was now gathered up. She was looking down at me, and let her hand rest on my shoulder. "John," she said, "have you forgotten me? May I not share your sorrow? Did you not think to tell me you were come? Did you not see the light? Did you not know there was a friend that waited for you?" I said nothing, not being able to speak, but marvelling how she had come just in the point of time to prove me wrong to think I had no friend, and she went on. "Is it well for you to be here? Grieve not too sadly, for none could have died nobler than he died, and in these years that you have been away I have thought much of him, and found him good at heart, and if he did aught wrong 'twas because others wronged him more." And while she spoke, I thought how Elzevir had gone to shoot her father, and only failed of it by a hair's breadth, and yet she spoke so well I thought he never really meant to shoot at all, but only to scare the magistrate. And what a whirligig of time was here, that I should have saved Elzevir from having that blot on his conscience, and then that he should save my life, and now that Maskew's daughter should be the one to praise Elzevir when he lay dead. And still I could not speak. And again she said, "John, have you no word for me? Have you forgotten? Do you not love me still? Have I no part in your sorrow?" Then I took her hand in mine, and raised it to my lips, and said, "Dear Mistress Grace, I have forgotten nothing, and honour you above all others. But of love I may not speak more to you, nor you to me, for we are no more boy and girl as in times past, but you a noble lady, and I a broken wretch." And with that I told her how I had been 10 years a prisoner, and why, and showed her the iron ring upon my wrist, and the brand upon my cheek. At the brand she stared, and said, "Speak not of wealth. 'Tis not wealth makes men, and if you have come back no richer than you went, you are come back no poorer, nor poorer, John, in honour. And I am rich, and have more wealth than I can rightly use. So speak not of these things, but be glad that you are poor, and were not let to profit by that evil treasure. But for this brand, it is no prison name to me, but the Mohoun's badge, to show that you are theirs and must do their bidding. Said I not to you, have a care how you touch the treasure, it was evilly come by, and will bring a curse with it? But now, I pray you, with a greater earnestness, seeing you bear this mark upon you, touch no penny of that treasure if it should some day come back to you, but put it to such uses as Colonel Mohune thought would help his sinful soul." With that she took her hand from mine and bade me good night, leaving me in the darkening room with the glow from the fire lighting up the sail and the outline of the body that lay under it. After she was gone, I pondered long over what she had said, and what that should mean when she spoke of the treasure one day coming back to me, but wondered much the most to find how constant is the love of woman, and how she could still find a place in her heart for so poor a thing as I. But as to what she said, I was to learn her meaning this very night. Master Ratsey had come in and gone again, not stopping with me very long, because there was much doing on the beach, but bidding me be of good cheer, and have no fear of the law, for that the bane against me and the head price had been dead for many a year. 'Twas Grace had made her lawyers move for this, refusing herself to sign the hue and cry, and saying that the fatal shot was fired by misadventure. And so a dread which was just waking was laid to rest for ever. And when Ratsey went, I made up the fire, and lay down in the blankets in front of it, for I was dog-tired, and longed for sleep. I was already dozing, but not asleep, when there was a knock at the door, and in walked Mr. Glennie. He was aged, and stooped a little, as I could see by the firelight, but for all that I knew him at once, and sitting up offered him what welcome I could. He looked at me curiously at first, as taking note of the bearded man that had grown out of the boy he remembered, but gave me very kindly greeting, and sat down beside me on a bench. First he lifted the sail from the dead body, and looked at the sleeping face. Then he took out a common prayer, reading the commendamus over the dead, and giving me spiritual comfort. And lastly he fell to talking about the past. From him I learnt something of what had happened while I was away, though for that matter nothing had happened at all, except a few deaths, for that is the only sort of change for which we look in Moonfleet. And among those who had passed away was Miss Arnold, my aunt, so that I was another friend the less, if indeed I should count her a friend, for though she meant me well, she showed her care with too much strictness to let me love her, and so in my great sorrow for Elzevir I found no room to grieve for her. Whether from the spiritual solace Mr. Glennie offered me, or whether from his pointing out how much cause for thankfulness I had in being loosed out of prison and saved from imminent death, certain it was I felt some assuagement of grief, and took pleasure in his talk. And though I may by some be reprehended, he said, for presuming to refer to profane authors after citing Holy Scripture, yet I cannot refrain from saying that even the great poet Homer counsels moderation in mourning. For quickly, says he, cometh satiety of chilly grief. After this I thought he was going, but he cleared his throat in such a way that I guessed he had something important to say, and he drew a long-folded blue paper from his pocket. "My son," he said, opening it leisurely and smoothing it out upon his knee, "we should never revile fortune, and in speaking of fortune I only use that appellation in our poor human sense, and do not imply that there is any chance at all but what is subject to an overruling providence. We should never, I say, revile fortune, for just at that moment when she appears to have deserted us, she may be only gone away to seek some richest treasure to bring back with her, and that this is so, let what I am about to read to you prove. So light a candle and set it by me, for my eyes cannot follow the writing in this dancing firelight." I took an end of candle which stood on the mantelpiece, and did as he bid me, and he went on. "I shall read you this letter which I received near 8 years ago, and of the weightiness of it you shall yourself judge. I shall not here set down that letter in full, although I have it by me, but will put it shortly, because it was from a lawyer, tricked with long-winded phrases, and spun out as such letters are to afford cover afterwards for a heavier charge. It was addressed to the Reverend Horace Glennie, perpetual curate of Moonfleet, in the county of Dorset, England, and written in English by Heer Rootston, attorney in signariat of the Hague in the kingdom of Holland. It set forth that one Crispijn Aldobrand, jeweller and dealer in precious stones at the Hague, had sent for Heer Rootston to draw a will for him, and that the said Crispijn Aldobrand, being near his end, had disposed to the said Heer Rootston that he, Aldobrand, was desirous to leave all his goods to one John Trenchard of Moonfleet, Dorset, in the kingdom of England, and that he was moved to do this, first by the consideration that he, Aldobrand, had no children to whom to leave aught, and second, because he desired to make full and fitting restitution to John Trenchard, for that he had once obtained from the said John a diamond without paying the proper price for it, which stone he, Aldobrand, had sold and converted into money, and having done so, found afterwards both his fortune and his health decline, so that, although he had great riches before he became possessed of the diamond, these had forthwith melted through unfortunate ventures and speculations, till he had little remaining to him but the money that this same diamond had brought. He therefore left to John Trenchard everything of which he should die possessed, and being near death begged his forgiveness if he had wronged him in aught. These were the instructions which Heer Roosten received from Mr. Aldobrand, whose health sensibly declined, until 3 months later